Okay. Welcome to Tea with Changelings, where we discuss all things art over a cup of tea. And the Changeling Artist Collective is a group of fantasy artists from all over the world. And you can find us on our website at changelingartistcollective.com and on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. And my name is Eeva Nikunen, and with me today we have another Changeling artist, Sam Guay. Welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
So awesome to we tried this last week and we had a little bit of a internet connection trouble, so hopefully everything will go smoothly this time. So
yeah, hopefully the internet will cooperate. I live in the woods, so it doesn't always agree.
Yeah, well, it feels better this time, so hopefully it will stay on. Do you have this is Tea with Changelings? Do you have a cup of tea, or are you just going with that? Oh,
I have a different mug this time. So I have this one. It's all fancy earthy colors and I love it. And there's a little like rock in the handle. It's great.
Oh, that's nice. Is there like a story behind that, or it's just a cool mug?
I worked in a tea shop for a long time and they had these mugs and I just love the colors and textures on it. So I have a couple.
Oh, that's really nice. I actually had these Disney Store mugs, and this week I have a Dumbo mug just because of the. I don't know if you saw the Dumbo trailer came out.
A trailer? Are they making another Dumbo?
Yeah, like it's a Tim Burton movie. It's a live action Dumbo movie.
That sounds interesting. I haven't heard of it at all. So
yeah, I haven't. I saw that. I watched the trailer yesterday. Actually, I'm just like I have a soft spot for Tim Burton, so I'm gonna give him a chance. And I'm actually like, it sounds weird like a live action Dumbo, but I think I'm still gonna see it. It looked okay. Like I might see it. So
I'll have to look and see. Tim Burton doing Dumbo sounds really interesting.
yeah. Well, hopefully it will be good. So I like some of his other movies and his art. I really love his art. So I'm always like
him. Oh yeah, I loved him in high school. He was like a big art inspiration for me in my more gothy phases.
yeah. So we're kind of here today talking about your Kickstarter, which is the Blood Moon Tarot Kickstarter, and it only has like 7 days left, so it's almost over. So I don't know, could you kind of like tell us a little bit about how it all started? Like, what was the first card you started doing for the project?
Yeah, for sure. We talked about this briefly before, and I can't remember if I did the star or the hanged man first. I think it might have been the star, but I posted the hanged man first. And I remember when I sat down to work on the star, there's herons in the painting. And as I sat down at my desk, I looked out the window and a blue heron came down and like landed right in the yard. I was like, oh, yay. I had always wanted to do a tarot deck. I got my first tarot deck when I was around 14 or 15, I want to say. And tarot has a lot of symbolism and storytelling in it, and of course, it's very visual. So I've always really been interested in it. And in college, I did my thesis on the tarot, and I made a little oracle deck. And I had always wanted to make my own full tarot deck, but I never really felt like I was ready. And so a couple years ago, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this now because if I don't, it's never going to happen. And I stayed stubborn through the past couple of years, and I'm, wrapping things up at this point, and I funded, and it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like almost 1,000 backers and like way over what you like what you set your goal at. So it's been going really well.
Yeah, it was crazy. I spent the first day just crying the whole time because I was so overwhelmed with the response. It was very validating. It's like working my butt off for 2 years, more than 2 years at this point. And, you know, you just put it out there, all this work, and all these people who have been just quietly waiting for it to happen show up, and it got funded in 2 hours and has been growing ever since. So it's really overwhelming in a good way. And, you know, I didn't expect to do this well, and it's really great, and I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, that's great. You kind of had like a plan from the start that it was going to be a full deck. So I've heard like some other projects, maybe they start more like, I don't want to say like organically, maybe you don't know like what the thing is going to be, but maybe you really had a plan for this and you've been working on it for a long time, for like at least 2 years. Is that correct? So you just started like posting the art that you're doing. Did you like, how did you come up with the Blood Moon Tarot, the name for the deck? Like,
oh, I I had a bunch of different names, but I decided on that one because I announced that I was making the deck on the day of the blood moon eclipse in 2015, and I was like, ooh, that's a cool name. That's kind of what's the right word for it? I can't think of the right word, but it seems like a cool thing to do. It you know, a good day. It was a good omen sort of day to do it.
Yeah, that's cool. I can see in the chat, Regina is just joined us. Hello. You can ask questions like at any time. If you have any questions, just please ask, and then we'll see it in the chat. So, and have you like you still have a few cards that you're completing? You haven't completed the entire deck, so how many cards do you still have to do?
So technically, I have 5 paintings left to do. I have the world to finish, which I'm kind of saving for last because that's a card that symbolizes completion of a big project. It's like this chapter is done and we're going to move on to the next one. So I'm kind of saving that one for last. And then I have 4 paintings, and each one of those paintings is one of the suits, which technically contains 14 cards each. And the way I'm doing that is I'm designing it so that each suit is one big painting. The images are a little bit connected and they interweave with each other, but they can stand alone. And the reason I'm doing that is, one, I can work on all the cards at the same time, which means that it'll be easier for me to make them look like they belong together as a suit. You know, I'll use the same colors in all of them. I can match things in between the different cards, and if I get stuck working on one card, I can work on another, and I won't get too obsessed with the little details, which is kind of a weakness of mine. I get really involved in details.
Yeah. So Regina, sorry, do you want to finish that? Yeah. Regina has a question. Yeah.
I will. And then the other thing is doing them in a big painting like that, they interconnect a little bit. I had originally wanted this deck to be borderless, but because of the way the cards are formatted when you get them printed, I needed to have a border, otherwise the art would have been cut off weirdly. So I'm planning to do a limited edition set of the deck that has larger cards and is borderless. So when I do those, the cards within the suits will be able to, you know, lay them out and they'll interconnect more. Okay,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so Regina has a question. She's curious about Sam's tarot story. How did you first get into tarot, and what decks do you love?
Okay, so the very, very, very start of my interest in tarot was a TV show called Card Captors. It was this anime where this girl goes and collects these cards that come to life and they have like creatures in them. And I thought that was really cool. And a good friend of mine, his mother was super into tarot and would read cards for us and things like that. And so I got interested at a young age. And then I had mentioned earlier that I got my first deck around 14 or 15. And the deck is the Lunatic Tarot, I believe it's called. It has a lot of that anime manga influence to it, which, ties back to my original inspiration. I have a couple other decks. The Wooden Tarot is one of them. I love that one. And I generally use the Rider-Waite deck when I'm doing my readings and stuff because the symbolism is pretty easily read within that. And I like using it as a jumping point for other things. But sometimes I'll read with two decks at the same time and put the imagery together and connect them somehow. But I think those two decks are the ones I use the most. And I have a lot of oracle decks that are all botanical themed. Mm. I have one, it's the I'm trying to remember the name of it. The Celtic, or is it the Druid plants deck? The paintings are really, really beautiful. And I always have one of those cards out. Oh, are you still there?
Yeah, sorry, cut off just for a second. Yeah, you're back. Okay.
What were the other questions?
There's another question from Whitewood Tarot. She asked, or they ask, how long did it take you to plan out the images for each suit? It's a brilliant idea, by the way, how you are doing it.
All of the cards kind of, I couldn't tell you how long exactly from beginning to end the planning took, because I have this big thick book that I've written all in with all of my ideas and interpretations of the cards, and I would change them and I'd pick symbols that kind of went with my idea for them. I'd write about my experiences with the cards. Just a lot of chaotic brainstorming would happen in that book. And then I'd go and sketch for a while. And then I'd take those sketches, see if I picked up anything new from those, go back to the book, rewrite things, replan things, then go back to sketching. And I'd go back and forth like this until things clicked in a way that made the idea feel really, really solid. And then even when I felt like my idea was really solid and I was working on final drawings and stuff like that, I would make little discoveries and be like, oh, wow, that fits so perfectly. I'm going to go with this idea instead. It's just, I do as much planning as I can, and it can take months. It can take even longer. It could take years, and I take breaks in between working on it. There are a couple of the major cards that definitely I spent probably over a year working on the idea for it, because I would just go back and forth to different cards and come back to that one and be like, oh, this idea would be so much better. But I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is that, because I don't have a lot of experience with tarot, have you done research to the origins of the first tarot cards, or how did it all start?
So the first tarot cards were actually part of a playing card game. They weren't used for divination. And I actually got to go see some of the original hand-painted cards in the Cloisters in New York. I think it was a year or two ago. I just was going there for some art show and randomly discovered on the train ride down that some of the original cards were going to be at the cloisters. And so I changed my plans and I ended up going there, and it was awesome. And it was really cool because you got to see some of the first woodblock printed cards too. So all the cards for one suit would be on one piece of paper, and then they cut them out. And the symbols for the suits, people generally think of swords, wands, cups, and pentacles. They had all sorts of different suits in some of the original cards, or the older decks. I remember seeing acorns and bells, and I think one of them had like buckets or something. They were just really interesting. But yeah, so some of the background of tarot is really interesting, seeing how it evolved from a playing card game into divination and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you recently did some tarot reading somewhere.
Oh, yeah. There was a masquerade nearby, and I don't usually read for the public or read for strangers. I just like reading for myself and journaling with it. But I decided to offer tarot readings, and it was my first official gig reading, and I read for 3 hours straight and lost my voice because people were super excited about it. And it was great, and people were so sweet, and people really enjoyed it. So I'd consider doing it again, but probably won't be a regular thing for me.
Could you do those like with your own cards once they're
I did.
printed?
I brought my prototype deck. Which,
oh wow! Yeah.
It was smaller, so I told people, I was like, I can read for you from an entire deck, but if you want like a really general, basic, open reading, I have my prototype deck. If you want to check that out and use that. And some people wanted the full deck. Some people chose the prototype deck, and people loved both of them. So it was kind of neat getting to use them. But I can't wait to have the whole deck to do it.
Yeah, that's gonna be so cool. Can you tell like what's your process? Like what materials you're using for the paintings, for the cards, and how you approach that?
So I use watercolor for the most part. I have a bunch of stuff. I can actually show you things. Hold on. Let me break everything. I'm going to drop everything. There you go. So I use watercolors for the most part. A lot of them are Daniel Smith. I keep them in these little containers just so, extra layer of keeping them from drying out. And I have a pretty wide variety of colors, but I generally pick just a few to work with. So here's my one of my super messy palettes. And I use butcher's tray if I want to do more mixing, or if I'm doing washes and need a lot of a certain mixture. So usually the way I pick palettes is I pick only a couple of colors. I don't like to overdo it. And I have a couple of examples of my studies here. So let me show you some of the studies for the lovers. So this is my study for the lovers to figure out the palette. You can see that it's pretty similar to the final. But I also had some other ones. So I had this one, which was kind of interesting. It's kind of purple and green with some dark reds. And I have notes on the colors I used. So if I decide I want to use those colors, I can, reference that directly in the final piece. or if I want to use that color palette for a different painting, I know what it was that I did. And there's a purple and yellow version of it. I'm not sure how clearly you can see these.
Do you have like a specific paper that you like using?
Paper? I have been using just, I think it's just Arch's hot press so that the paper is nice and smooth because I tend to do little details. And I think it's 140 pounds. That's generally what I work with.
Yeah, that's a nice thick paper. So yeah. Have you always been a watercolor artist, or is that just something that you're specifically using for this project?
I used to do digital a lot, but for some reason in college, I got back into watercolors. I had originally gotten into watercolors sometime in grade school, and then got into digital, and then back into watercolors. I mostly use watercolors. I'd love to get back into oils at some point, but I don't really have a great space to do them. And for the longest time, I thought that oil paint made me sick because in college, whatever solvents and stuff they had us using made me sick. So I thought that I just couldn't use oil paint, but it turns out that they have a lot better options. So
yeah, well, I have some tips for you if you want any. I'm an oil painter, so
yes,
yeah,
I'd love to know because I really want to at some point get back into that sort of thing.
Yeah, because they have so many options nowadays for the solvents. I can't like, I started with all the like turpentine and all the really nasty stuff, and then I just kind of like try to move away from those, and there's just like so many other options to choose from nowadays, so it's good. I'd love to see some oil paintings from you. So you had just like such a wonderful style and like the imagination in your paintings. So.
Yeah, and I love the effect that some of the oil painting has of like you can get these really rich colors and this glowing feeling and these really dark, smooth, lovely qualities to it. But I do love watercolor a lot.
Yeah, watercolor is also, but you can do both. Yeah. So we could talk a little bit about the Kickstarter and just like how long before like the launch of the Kickstarter did you start planning like everything, like the tiers of the pledges and like everything? Just it's such a huge task to like run a big Kickstarter like this. Like just a little bit of the background, how long it takes to prepare for the event.
I probably started really thinking about stuff probably last summer. And things changed a lot. Things changed dramatically about a week before I launched because I got some great advice. And I was like, wow, that blows my mind. Why didn't I ever think of that?
Can you share with us what was it?
One of the things is that so Kickstarter takes a percentage from you, and that includes taking a percentage from your shipping costs. So and the shipping costs get included in your final goal. So part of why I'm having people do shipping after the campaign is one, it kept my goal from blowing up because it would have had to been a lot more had I included shipping in the goal. And Kickstarter is taking money out of that the shipping money,
yeah,
which kind of screws over creators, even even if it's just like a little bit, it makes a big difference if you end up having like 1,000 backers. So I'm charging shipping after, and that was a breakthrough discovery. I think that was like my biggest one. Things about there's so many little details now that I can't. That was the big one that I can think of.
So is it like after the Kickstarter is over, the shipping will be added to the pledge level after?
Yeah. So the shipping is going to be charged through like Pledge Manager instead of through Kickstarter.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, the shipping is always like so tricky because I actually did a small like a pre-order campaign for a book that I did just a few about a month ago. I did a pre-order campaign, and I thought I had all the shipping costs like down on my website, but still I made some mistakes, and I'm paying for those now because it's like the one thing that I did a big mistake of not thinking about people ordering multiple books at one time. So I just because some people ordered like 6 books, and I hadn't added that the amount that it takes me to ship that amount of books to, like, for example, to the US. It was much more than what I charge on my website. So I made a big mistake with that. So just for everything, like double check, triple check the shipping, because it always ends up going wrong in the end for some reason.
That was another little bit of advice that I found useful, is that instead of putting all the information in the actual tiers, just say, you know, the details of this tier are in the body of the text. That way, if something weird happens and you have to change the information, you can. Because once somebody pledges under a tier, you can't change the information there. And so if you made a typo or some like small mistake that makes a huge major difference, you're screwed. So if you put it in the body, you can fix things and talk to people, and it's so much easier to adjust things you need to. And I tried to keep the campaign relatively simple. Like, I have a basic deck and then a deluxe deck, and each one gets different sorts of stretch goals included with it. And I wanted to offer the basic deck because some people just really don't want any extras. They just want the deck. You know, they don't want stickers or prints or any stretch goals that come with it.
Yeah.
So I kept that really basic. And then I did the deluxe one, which has all the fun extras, like I have a tarot cloth now, a magnetic box, and this cool metallic gold prints of the back of the card. So, you know, that keeps it relatively simple and makes the choice easy for people to get exactly what they want. If they don't want to extras, it's easy.
Yeah, because sometimes I see Kickstarters and it's like it can be a bit confusing because there's just like too much stuff. Like it can be nice to have like a lot of like different things to go with the main product, but still, I think most people just want the main thing. Like with you, for example, they just really want the tarot deck, and then like they just so that everything's really clear, like what each level has. I'm just looking at your Kickstarter here on my phone. It just I noticed, like you said, it says like at each level, like check the details, and the shipping will be added later. Yeah, I think that's good. And do you have like did you have like plans for the marketing before the campaign? Because even like with my small like pre-order campaign, I didn't do a Kickstarter or anything. It was just for my mailing list and on my social media and everything. But still, like as the pre-order campaign was going on, I realized that I hadn't planned. I wish I had planned more stuff to post, and just to keep the thing going, like each day that I would have something new to share with people, like related to the campaign? Like, did you plan for those beforehand?
I don't know. I did a lot. So probably about a year ago, I started really promoting that I was going to be having a Kickstarter this spring for the tarot deck. And I would tell everybody, I would tell people at conventions, you know, I would show people my artwork, and just try to keep people up to date about it so people knew that this was happening. And then I tried to plan as much as I could. I think if I had the chance to redo this, I would plan podcasts and like guest blog posts beforehand, a lot beforehand, because it ended up being a little bit last minute with some of those. And so I would have liked to be on One Fantastic Week, for example, during the campaign, but I was a little late in getting, you know, in contact with them. So it's next month and after the campaign, which is awesome still. I am so excited to be on One Fantastic Week. But you know, I scheduled it so that it's after. What else was there? And then just lots of Facebook stuff. I made an event on Facebook, so it would, you know, let people know that it was starting, and I could post updates in the event so that people who are interested would get the updates directly. Did my mailing list. I did this whole countdown thing on Instagram, which is a lot of work, a lot of typing. I think I have like 20 pages of just me talking about the deck. Which, if you have any questions or curiosities about the deck, going back and reading about that on Patreon or Instagram would probably be something really interesting for people.
Yeah, and here in the chat, if you have any questions for Sam, like please just ask in the chat and we will answer it.
Let's see, what else did I do? I think the bulk of it was just social media, which is a lot of work. And also, I was totally overwhelmed by the big response at first, and I was like, oh, there's so much to keep up with. I guess I'm not gonna sleep for like 2 weeks. It was a lot of excitement and a lot of stuff going on, lots of questions to answer, lots of updates to give people as we kept hitting stretch goals and stuff like that. So
yeah, I'm sure there are like a lot of like tarot podcasts out there, I would think, like tarot themed podcasts that you could go on, like even after the campaign, to like just let people know that you have the deck out and they can get it.
Yeah, I know that Curie was on one. I can't remember the name. She mentioned it to me briefly, but she mentions my Kickstarter in her interview, which was super.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so some people, you know, came to the Kickstarter and left a comment that was like, oh, you know, I heard Curie mention you, so I can check that out. But yeah, there's a lot of like witchy sort of stuff in that area. It's like a contemporary witchcraft sort of genre of stuff, and I like to listen to some of those podcasts because there's lots of interesting perspectives and
you
know.
And I loved the photos you took of the deck, by the way, like the big photo you have on your website. Just when you go and you can see like I don't know, it's like a wolf skin or like wolf fur or something. But it just looks so awesome. Like I think you themed that like really well. Did you do a lot of planning for like how you're gonna style the photos for the Kickstarter?
Usually I do a lot of the styling of photos. I live in the woods, so I just go outside and I see what's around. So there are lots of the apple trees were in bloom, which was awesome. The violets were blooming, so I picked a bunch of, you know, apple flowers and violets and set things up. And I had, you know, my studio plants. I have a lot of props around, and then I go get stuff out in the woods as well.
Yeah.
Set everything up.
Yeah, I just like you could get the feeling of like what the deck is about. I think from the photos, I think that's really important. That's like
Awesome.
something that I'm trying to get better at, like just taking really good photos. I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah. The way I think about styling my photos is making like an altar. So I pick things that are sort of symbolic or go with it or match the color. And then I set things up like it's a little altar place. Because I kind of do that for myself. Like if I have a goal to reach or something personal that I'm working on, I have a little shelf in my room and I set things up as a reminder to work towards that goal or, think about how, this experience is going for you, what you can change to be a better person, or whatever stuff.
Yeah.
So I just take that and I use it as a way to, make my art interesting as well when I photograph it.
Yeah. Do you think like when your deck is done, are you gonna do like do you do personal like tarot readings for yourself? Do you see yourself like using your own tarot deck for those?
I might. I'm definitely, that was a big part of making my own deck is I would get
Yeah.
to use it for my own things, especially because the cards relate to my specific experiences. So relating to those cards for me is super easy. But yeah, I have been pulling one card every day and writing about it. So I use cards pretty frequently.
Yeah. Do you have any plans for like after the Kickstarter, any other like things related to the world of the Blood Moon Tarot, like another Kickstarter that you could do in the future, or you're just focusing on this right now? Or?
Well, right now I'm definitely focusing on this.
Yeah.
Get this all set and ready to go. But I've decided that next year I'm going to do a limited edition version of the deck that has the bigger cards and, is borderless and really features the art prominently. So it's kind of like a collector's deck. It's like having a mini portfolio of all the work, or you can use it for reading. But a lot of people expressed interest in that, so I thought that would be a cool little Kickstarter to do next year.
Yeah. Is there like a booklet or something that goes with the tarot, or is it just the cards?
I do have a PDF that's going to come with the cards, but I'm working really hard to get something available this last week for people because I really, really want to do a physical booklet. It just might take me a little bit longer because I want it to be really nice and I want to add more than what's in the PDF. And books are kind of expensive to make. So I have to make sure that, I'm in a good place to order some. But we're so close. I'm hoping that maybe Friday I can make an announcement or something. But
yeah, I'm sure.
No promises yet. I really want it to happen, but no promises yet.
Yeah, well, let's really hope so because I think it would be really nice too. Because I have a few. I don't have a tarot deck, but I have a few oracle decks, and it's really nice because you have the booklet, and then you can kind of like use that with the cards.
Yeah, so. I did a whole ton of writing with all of the cards as well, and because they're different than what people are used to, I really want to be able to talk about the cards if I do a physical book. So it'll probably be a little bit bigger than just like a booklet.
Yeah. Could you think about like maybe doing an art book with the Blood Moon Tarot art in it, like so people could have like in a bigger size?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking that I'm gonna try to offer for this book. It's gonna be bigger, so you'll have the full size artwork. You'll have all the explanations. You'll see, sketches, my color palettes, some of my personal spreads that I do for myself, and maybe a little bit about the deck and all of that. So.
Yeah. Do you have
it's extra work, so.
Yeah. Well, do you have like a personal favorite art piece that you did for the deck, or like just maybe a card that just you really enjoyed making, or you looked forward to doing the art for, like a special card or something?
I think that the moon card is really special to me. I think of all the cards that I did, that one is the most personal. I haven't really talked in depth about that one, but I had been stuck trying to figure out how I wanted to portray that card, because it's kind of a card that is about being undefined and not, you know, sort of unexplainable chaos and creativity and dreams and weird things like that don't make sense. And I had this really great experience with a friend of mine, and like right in the middle of me trying to figure that card out. And after that experience, everything clicked, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what I'm doing for this card. And it came together, and there's a lot of, like, all the masks mean something really specific to me, and there's some other personal things in there that are really special. So I may talk about it sometime, but
yeah. Do you have some of the original pieces available through your Kickstarter as well? Do you?
Yeah, I have. There's still quite a few pieces available. Of the ones that are still available, I think the Hermit is still available, which is another one of my big favorites. That was the first card I ever pulled out of a deck. Before I really knew anything about cards, I got my first deck, and one of the exercises you can do is, if you don't know anything about tarot, is you go through the deck, you pick out your favorite card, and then you read about it. So I went through the deck, I picked out the Hermit, and I read about it, and I was like, oh, this card is so perfectly relatable for me. And it's also, if you like astrology, I kind of love it. It's fun. You know, so that card is the card for Virgo, and I'm a Virgo. And so there were all these cute little coincidences in it. And so I love it.
Is there a specific card for Taurus? Because I'm a Taurus.
I believe it's the Empress.
Oh, okay. I have to check that out. I'm actually like, I'm starting to get really interested in tarot. Like I want to learn more. So maybe through your deck, I can kind of like get into the whole thing. I really love the art. Like I love the art. Like I've seen tarot art like forever, but just haven't really like done much research into that world. But like I'm really interested. So that's like why it's been really interesting to talk to you about the whole project. So
yeah, I've had quite a few people send me messages like, oh, I've been waiting for the right tarot deck because I wanted to get into it, and I just haven't clicked with any, and then I saw yours and I love it, and so yours is going to be my first tarot deck.
Yeah.
And that is one of the best comments I've ever gotten. Every time I get a comment like that, I'm like, ah.
Yeah, that's so amazing. Awesome. Yeah, I think that's like one of the best compliments you can get.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, do you have any tips for any artist who would like to maybe do their own deck? Is there like a way to get started, or is it always like how many cards? 7 to 8 cards?
78, yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge project to get into.
Yeah, actually, Lauren Panapinto made a great post about tarot and other sorts of card deck divination formats. So if you're interested in getting into it, I would totally recommend going to that blog, and we should probably post a link to that.
Yeah, I can add the link to the show notes after. Yeah.
Yeah, because there might be a different format that works better for you than tarot. Because Oracle decks, you don't have to do 78 cards, and you can do whatever you want with them. And there's some other different types of decks as well. But if you really want to get into tarot specifically, I'd recommend doing the card a day, pull one card out of a deck and write about it and try to learn about it, do research about it. It helps you get really familiar with the cards, and it helps you recognize patterns within them and helps you figure out how to relate to them yourself. I would just do a lot of reading for yourself to get used to them and to get a better understanding of them. And then another thing, if you really want to do the tarot, it's a lot of cards. There were so many times where I just wanted to lay down on the floor and cry and give up. But I'm super stubborn, so I, got this far, and I'm gonna finish it up, and it's gonna be great. And I'm super excited about it. So.
Yay! Are you printing the cards locally in the U.S. or are they shipping from overseas?
I'm working with a printer in the U.S., but because of the amount of cards that I'm probably gonna end up, or amount of decks that I'm gonna end up getting, I think the printer in the U.S. has I don't know what the word for it is, another place they work with in China. Mm-hmm. So I'm working through a U.S. company, but I think they're going to end up being printed in China, and I think a lot of card decks are. So
yeah. So we're kind of like coming to the end of our time. Do you have any last tips or thoughts about like your journey thus far with the whole project or anything?
Oh no, I feel really on the spot.
That's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I have 1 week left in the campaign, and it's been, really validating to have all these people come out and support me and show me that, all this time that I've put into the deck and all the effort and, making this happen is totally worth it, And
yeah,
I get really sweet comments, and those make my day. They're so awesome. So
has your vision for your art career changed at all during the past few weeks? Like your vision for the future, like what you're gonna do next and everything, has it changed dramatically?
Not really. I realized that I'm probably going to be working on this deck for a while longer, and then I have a bunch of gallery.
No, it cut up. Hopefully Sam's website, the internet connection didn't cut out during the last. I'm just gonna send her a text. Well, I think we might have lost Sam during just the last few minutes, but I'm glad we got to talk to her for 45 minutes. So I hope that. Are you still there, Sam? No, she's not there. Okay, I'm gonna. Thanks for everyone for joining us, and I hope that you really enjoyed hearing about the Blood Moon Tarot. And I'll have the link to the Kickstarter, to Sam's Kickstarter, in the show notes, so you can go there and check the Kickstarter out. And it's still only 7 days left, and I hope you go and back it if you haven't already. And thanks to Sam for joining us for this episode, and hopefully we can have her back for future episodes. And thanks everyone. Bye.